All right. So as I mentioned, there are times where maybe you won't see a picture of your property, and that will simply be because Google doesn't have a proper image of it. Okay. So the first thing you're going to see is the estimate of value. And I'll confess, when I was a lender back in the day, and I would order a valuator or an appraiser, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to flip through all the pages. I'm going to look at the price. There's some other good information in there, but I may or may not have really dug into it like I should. I'm going to go through this report and share some of the highlights from a lending standpoint. I know most of you, I think the MS staff, you're probably doing lending, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. So this might help with some conversations or some risk items on the file. So you'll see a confidence score. So the confidence score is a ranking that goes from low, medium, medium high, and high. Now, what this is this tells you our percentage of potential error. So we know we're never going to be 100% on a value. That would be statistically unable to be done. So a low medium tells you that there's probably about a 90% chance that there could be a valuation difference, either plus or minus, of about 22%. Okay. As you get to a higher confidence score, that shrinks. So if you're at a high, you're probably at about maybe a 15%. So it's not a huge difference. But I will tell you that we're really comfortable with the values that we provide. The confidence score is just a mechanism that Joel has created. It used to be stars, and we changed it into a lower, medium, high. The neighborhood range tells you for homes in this neighborhood, the lowest priced house in this area, this neighborhood, is $154,000. And the highest one is just over $1 million. So that's a pretty big range. Where this property is sitting is on the higher side of value. So dare I say, one of the nicer houses in the area. This will give you your property value range. So at a low, this property was priced at $487, and at an upper band was at $736. So part of how we get this value, as I mentioned, is the comparables. So I'll give you a little bit of detail, but not too much on the model. So how this model starts is it says, okay, I'm going to go out into the geographical region that I'm allowed to go to, and I'm going to look for single-family dwellings or single-family dwellings with a basement suite. So I'm getting all sorts of properties. And then we call this model a random forest. So think about when you go into a forest, how many different types of trees there are. And so what this does is it looks at all the properties and then says, okay, start showing me the properties that have similar characteristics, bedrooms, lot size, age, all of those things. And then the model assigns a weight to each of these. So what is most important when we're truly doing a comparable? So that's how it starts, with all these properties, and then it narrows it down to the properties that have the most similar characteristics of the highest weight. So Cassandra, I saw that you raised your hand. You just go ahead and take yourself off mute and ask your question.
Hi, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just curious, like I know it's like a forest, and how does it determine like which comparables? Because the only one subject, like comparable 1 is in Castlegar, comparable 2 is Nelson, and comparable 3 is Grand Forks. Those are all completely different areas to Castlegar.
They're different areas, but the housing markets are quite the same, we found, Cassandra. So that's a really good question. So what it's done is within that area, it would never look at a property in the Lower Mainland.
Okay.
It would look in, there's a certain geographical area that it looks, and then it says, I might start with I'm going to steal some thunder. I started looking at 396 properties. So you can see that right in this little house. So those were the original properties we started with. And then based on the characteristics, we start to narrow that field down till we get to about 100. That's kind of that magic number. And it depends, and this is where Joel, our data scientist, would be able to truly say, you know, which characteristics are the most highly weighted. But I know that there's about 45 characteristics that are looked at overall. So that's a great question. Thanks, Cassandra. And thanks for noticing that. That's someone who really knows your area right off the bat. I love it. So this is our subject property. We've said that it's a $612,000 value. And then you're going to get your basic information. You'll see your BC assessed value for last year, the property use type, the lot size. Is there any specific characteristics? So this one is adjacent to a railway. So some people might say that's a negative, some people might not, but it's one of those characteristics. So looked at properties similar that may have had that type of characteristic. Talks about the deck, pool, parking, if there's any other buildings, and then you'll see some interior data. Okay, now the one thing I want to say is keep in mind that we received our data from BC Assessment. So I don't know if anyone on this call has looked at your own BC assessment for your property and you went, well, that's not right, but I'm not going to tell BC Assessment because I don't want my taxes to go up. Debbie, you nodded. I'm guilty too. I'm missing a bedroom. I'm like, one bedroom I don't think will really increase my taxes, but you never know. So if you do see that characteristic, and one thing I encourage you all to do is pull a valuator on your own property, because you know your property better than anyone else, and that's where the details really seem to make sense for people.
Can I ask a question? So you pull data from BC Assessment. Now, do you share data back with them?
There isn't really any data that we have that we would share back, Debbie. Okay. Yeah, we get the entire roll from BC Assessment. So we have a couple other products that we have some commercial data in, but this is strictly residential. So okay. Yeah, with that licensing agreement, it's handy that they give us everything that they have, except owners' names and stuff like that. But so you can look here and see your comparables. And keep in mind that this is just 3 comparables. So typically you're going to see the comparables as the most recent sales, okay, that have happened in those jurisdictions. So these are June and July. So we know that truly the value of a property is what it's going to sell for. So we're comfortable that these are solid values to use as comparables. So again, we started with 396 properties that we looked at to provide this value. So Cassandra, I'm pretty sure you didn't see the map. That's why I was super impressed that you knew exactly where all these properties were. You will see your subject property and the comparables. So you do have an idea. Does that make sense? Is that really shouldn't be a comparable? And what I can say is if you feel that, that's where I'm, again, encourage you to pick up the phone. If I can't get you the answer, Joel will. We also will show you the last 4 years of BC assessed value on your subject property. Your property identification, always helpful when you need to send documents to a lawyer. Back in my day, they used to handwrite these things on a contract. Good luck trying to read some of those writings. This, I think, is one of these risk things. The permit history. So we know during COVID that a lot of people became their own general contractors and did massive renovations on their home because they were home. They probably didn't get permits if they didn't have a contractor. They just went ahead and did things. If your home, the subject property, has had a contractor do a renovation, they would have had to apply for a permit through the city or the jurisdiction. So the jurisdiction will eventually send that to BC Assessment and you'll see it on the report. So if you're having a conversation with your member and they say, well, that's kind of low, and if you see a permit, you might say, have you done any recent renovations on your home? So maybe they were done this year and BC Assessment isn't even aware that anything was done other than the permit that they shared. You'll also see if this is a demolition permit. If you ever see yes, I'm pretty sure you're going to hit the brakes pretty hard because this is your security and there's been a demo permit, especially if that date is really recent. It just creates a different conversation with your member. The next section here, this was added just a couple years ago. And so weekly, our reports are updated for climate events. So if there has been a fire, a flood, or a landslide, either an evacuation or an alert issued on this property, it's going to show here. Why do you think that might be important? Anyone?
They might not be able to get insurance. That would be one factor.
Exactly, Lisa. If you see a property that has had a flood every year for the last 5 years, and keep in mind, you're going to see this information from 2017, then that's a conversation you'll need to have. Hey, tell me about your house insurance. Do you have flood insurance? No, couldn't get flood insurance. So again, then maybe that changes your pricing on your deal. Or maybe you won't do the deal at all. The next piece that we see on this report is the comparable analysis. So this is for single family dwellings. And this is where we drop the comparables to about 100. So this red line represents your subject property. And all the other blue lines are the comparables that we used. So when we looked at the comparables, this property was a little bit on the younger age to some of the comparables that were used. The lot size, and I'm looking to have these graphs redone because I'm not crazy about the way they're displayed, but that's just me. This lot size looks, again, a little bit on the smaller side to the comparables. Your assessed value is pretty much right in the middle. And your market valuation on this one is probably a little bit lower than some of the others. The next part is your property sales history. All right, I know, I feel like I'm on a quiz show. Who can tell me what a rejected, not suitable for sales analysis is? Anyone?
No.
This is one that, I had to dig into, and really because I needed to understand. A reject means that something has changed on the title of this property. Now, we know that people can add people and take people off title, and as the financial institution, you may not receive any notification. Typically, we see reject sales in the case of an estate or probate, divorces and marriages. That seems to be the standard. So I'm getting married, I'm adding my new husband onto the title of my property, and I'm crazy. I'm not going to add him on to the liability of it, just the asset. People do that or take people off. So if you see a reject sale that has a fairly recent date, again, that just gives you an opportunity to inquire to your member, hey, has anything changed on the title of your property? This will also tell you the last an improved single property cash transaction, that was the true sale of the property. So that's the first time that this property with an improvement has sold. The vacant single property means this was just land. This section will show you your change in value. So from the last sale of this property, so whoever bought this property in 2020, the property value has gone up 191.5%. That's impressive. And even when you look at from the last actual sale date, so we consider January 22nd, 93, when it was just a lot, the first sale date, this property increased by 12.1% per year. That's annualized. I'm sure that you have conversations with members that they say, oh, last year when the market was hot, I should have sold, I should have capitalized on that. Well, I think if you use this as a conversation piece, if somebody told me I was getting 12.1% on my investment, I'd be pretty happy. So yeah, maybe last year it was more, but still that's a nice steady dollar value to share. And unlike an appraisal, when you're actually sharing these with clients, if we get there, we have no problem with you sharing it with a client. It's a little bit, I know that appraisers, sometimes you have to have a letter of transmittal. They're specific about sharing it with the client, but we're happy if you want to share your report with your member. This is the estimate of value for this property. So the first part here, this is just in the city of Castlegar. The neighborhood is considered North Castlegar residential. The average price assessed value was $426,218, and the average price over the last 6 months in this neighborhood was about $697. That's just on houses that have sold. Okay, so there could be prices or homes that are more expensive but just haven't sold in this neighborhood. And then this graph is an actual graph of the property. So this is where I was, you know, we all wish we would have sold our homes and taken all the money we could have earned at this point. But you'll see what's going on in the market. So it looks like in February there was a bit of a dip, and then in March there was a bit of an increase in your area. So same down here in the Lower Mainland, we definitely saw a little bit of an increase in early March, April. But yeah, things definitely with that mortgage rate change, again, we saw sales in that drop dramatically. If you're looking for all of the details about the confidence score, just need to click on the report here and you will get the document that outlines the scores and all of the explanations around that. So what questions can I answer for you?
Well, I have a question. So the right here on the current estimated value today is 612.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very bottom in, I guess it was June, it was 5 something.
Yeah, 552.
So is that almost like if the July month was there, we'd be back up to 612?
Yes.
Big fluctuations, like 140, like that's, what is that, 20%?
Yeah, close to that. So what's the market been doing in Castlegar?
Well, for me, I think it's been steady. We've seen housing prices come off a little bit, like certain ones have been listed for a while, like, but so when I say a little bit, it's like something's been listed for 740 and it might drop to 720.
And then they're selling for 20 to 30 less than what they're listed for. I'm house shopping right now. Well, not anymore with rates, but and I live in Castlegar.
So they're going under listing right now, Cassandra, a little bit?
Yeah, around 20,000 for most of them, especially in this price range.
Say in the 600 price range? 600
to like 7, and most 7s aren't even doing anything.
I would say they're all going over well over assessed value though, typically.
Yeah.
Whereas this, so this comparison that we're looking at is quite a bit under the assessed value right now.
What's the assessed value? Sorry,
Six
Melody.
54.
654.
Yeah.
And what's the value at the top?
612.
612.
612. Okay. Bit of wiggle room on that.
So in my mind, I would say if that was going to be sold right now, they would probably be listing it over 7.
Yeah.
But maybe getting a bit less. Okay, no, I was just okay. For me, I was wondering about that chart on the bottom, but I think that helps, and for that piece.
I think with the rates, everything slowed right down anyway, right? Everybody was selling everything when the rates were so low. Now the rates are higher and things have slowed right down.
Yeah, and that's a fair comment, Kyla, for sure. And we know truly the true value of a property is not what we list it for, it's what it sells for. So that's where our comparables are the sales in the area of properties. It's not just what do we think the value is, it is what is the sales. So in our previous model, if we didn't have 3 comparable sales, we couldn't provide a valuator at all. So that's where this new model has some benefits. Cassandra, you had a question.
I did, sorry. Sorry, I might have missed this at the beginning. I was a few minutes late. Would we be using this instead of BC assessment or an appraiser?
At this time, you're going to do your regular process and then pull a valuator as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just because like the values are like different. So like BC assessment's higher, right? Than what was listed at the top of this report?
Yes.
So then it would, for like hypotheticals, like calculation wise, it would be better to use BC assessment for our calculations than what's listed on the top of this report?
Or are we supposed to meet somewhere in the middle?
Are we supposed to meet somewhere in the middle? I'm just not understanding how we're supposed to interpret this data versus everything else.
Yeah, if you let me take that one, if it's okay. So I think yes. So for today, we're gonna we would use our current policies and processes, and like, so Landcor is actually, it's in our policy and it can be used as well, but it's the same. Right now we have the same guidelines where it's 66% and up to 400,000, whichever comes first. And so, like, for example, for the next 2 months while we're doing this, we would continue to use the BC assessed values, for example. You can do that. So like Cassandra, in this specific example, you'd be okay to use BC assessment, but we're going to kind of take that data over the next couple of months just to see how things are shaping up. And we even do it like we're on it for appraisals too, like where we're getting an appraisal and we want to see how those compare. And then I think what we can look at is we're going to work with Landcor just on feedback, and then B is like, is there an opportunity for us to fine tune our lending manual to incorporate this where it works out. So initially it's for information and to help us and to give feedback.
Is it going to help us at all? Like, say if they want 450,000 and both the BC assessment and the Landcor assessment allow it instead of an appraisal? But it's over
exactly. Those are the things I think we would look at. Like, can we do if let's say we're, if we're super comfortable, can we do a higher threshold with Landcor? Because like, for example, other credit unions, they have a higher threshold when they have a Landcor. So like, and those are the things we would look at.
Well, it's like a second valuation, right? Without having to do a full appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
Say if they want 500,000 and they're both $1 million, you'd have a second piece of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Makes sense.
So yeah, so we're going to look at how can we use it. And hopefully there's opportunity there.
Yeah, and we hope so too. And as I said, for sure, by no means do I think that we're perfect, because we're not. I'll be the first one to admit that. But this is our opportunity with our refreshed model to really put it into a different market for us that we haven't had great success in the past, and see what advances we've made and how we can help you. If we can save your members a few $100s by using Landcor over a full appraisal, then there's benefit. If there's, a quicker turnaround time for you and your member, that's a benefit. But again, it's only if it works for you.
And sorry, Sandro, did you say we're doing this with every deal? We're pulling one for the next couple months?
Yeah, ideally we like to have those comparisons.
Did anyone else have any questions on the report? I love the engagement. I love the questions and the conversation we've had.
I just really want to see mine now.
Well, soon, do you have your credentials, Kyla? Because as soon as you're off this call, please pull one.
Okay.
Well, you mentioned Friday. Is today okay?
Yeah, don't do it today.
Oh, yeah. Do it Friday. Sorry, Kyla.
Yeah, don't do
it
it
would
today.
be-
Sandra's like, don't spend money.
Well, I'm
That's
wondering
tomorrow.
if it would be interesting to do some on properties that we know were just appraised, so we can have that comparison right away, right? We've just had them appraised, pull the thing and see, just to compare.
Yeah, like I think from a like if you have kind of the, if you have because it's quick to get this, but if you have a few minutes to do that, I think we can do unlimited number during that 2 months. So and the point of it is to kind of to get that data and feedback and review. So absolutely you could do that.
And does it have to be a deal, or can it just be a conversation we're having? Like sometimes, you can have a conversation and say, your BC assessment is this, like just even gathering information for the next 2 months. Is that something we're allowed to do if we're not doing a deal?
From my perspective, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it makes sense too.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree too. The only kind of caveat we put on this special offer is we didn't want you to price your entire book of business at Kootenay Savings with a new Landcor valuator. But as the deals come, if you're having those conversations, absolutely.
And my question might be more so for Sandro. Where are we storing all of this, all these valuations when we pull them?
Yeah, we'll table that. So Kristen is kind of taking the charge, but she's away this week, so she couldn't be on the call. So I'll pass that along to her and ask her what the process was for that.
Wouldn't we just on-base it? Like we would every year?
Yeah, I'll pass it along. I'm not sure what her plans were.
She may want us to on-base it and also save it in a separate spot, for example, with the BC assessment or with the actual appraisal that we're having done, so they can compare it later to get information. That's what I would think.
And I'm sorry, Melody, can you go over the scenarios in which this valuation does not work? I did write down any property that's over 2 acres.
Yes.
And then what were the other ones?
If it's over 100 years old. If it is either on Crown or lease land or First Nations land.
Okay.
And manufactured modular homes that are not on owned land.
Not on owned land. Okay, thank you.
If it's in a park, we won't be able to help you. But if the land is owned, then we might get a hit on that.
Okay, and does it have to be like affixed to the property or to the ground? Like can't move at all? That doesn't matter for that?
Well, yeah, it would have to be a manufactured.
It has to be. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good question. Anything else I can answer for you? So, of course, at the beginning of this call, I said, if you have any questions or you want to chat about these things, then reach out to me. My email is melody@landcor.com. And it's Melody with a Y. That's as easy as it is. But now I'm also telling you I'm going on holidays next week. so I think Jeff might take a call or two, but that's okay. He'll share them with Joel. Thank you, Sandra,
Awesome.
for having
Well,
me.
thank you.
I really appreciate getting to chat with your team and share this report, and hopefully it's successful in your area. And if not, then back to the drawing board for us to do some tuning. And we want
Excellent.
all feedback, good, bad, and indifferent. We want to hear it because we are invested in what we do.
Is there, you had mentioned an error code and the meaning of, is there any way to know what other meanings are on the, like a cheat sheet to know what the different meanings are? I don't know what I'm trying to say. Reject.
Oh,
On
the reject sale?
So is there like codes that we can look at to see the meaning of, look deeper into what that means?
Well, I do have a document. So a little shameless plug. I was doing at the beginning of the year something called Whiteboard Wednesdays on LinkedIn. So if you go to the Landcor page, we kind of broke down the report line, like section by section. And I do have the reject sale in there, but I can certainly send that to you as well, Debbie.
Oh, you can just send it to Sandra.
Okay.
Or Kristen, and then she can just send it out.
Okay. I will send that out this afternoon.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, I know that I had booked us for 45 minutes and probably some of you have appointments coming in or schedules. So if you have to drop off, thanks so much for spending the last 45 minutes. And like I said, use it as much as you need to get comfortable with it and let us know if you have any questions.
I have one more question. What does Quilla mean in the background on your picture frame?
That's my dog's name. It's Keela.
Oh, Keela. Oh, as in tequila.
No.
Okay.
I was also thinking tequila.
That's exactly where it came from.
Oh.
We wanted some Mexican name and that's where it stopped.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's my
Okay.
little chocolate lab. She's
Oh, nice.
pretty adorable.
Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Have
thank
a
you
great
very much.
afternoon,
Have a great
everyone.
day. Bye.